Biology Part 55. The two lungs of human contain more than 700 million of them, providing a total surface area recently estimated at about 140 square meter. To accommodate this vast surface area, the lungs have a highly organized internal structure supported by connective tissues. As a result, they are compact organs, relatively firm to touch, but highly elastic to allow expansion when filled with air. Well, this is possible only. Next we have got ventilation, and ventilation means that the air enters the lungs whenever the air pressure is inside the alveoli is reduced below atmospheric pressure. This is called inspiration. The reverse process is expiration. Occurs when the pressure of the alveolar air exceeds atmospheric pressure. The lungs themselves are not muscular, so that these changes in pressure must be achieved indirectly. This is possible only because of the pleural sac surrounding each lung. Each sac consists of two pleural membranes. The outer pleural membrane is firmly attached to the inside of the thorax and tends to be pulled away from the lungs when the volume of the thorax increases, so that the pressure of the pleural fluid drops below atmospheric pressure. This pressure difference is transmitted to the lungs by the inner pleural membrane. The lungs are therefore pulled outwards, nearly filling the enlarged thoracic cavity. The importance of pleural sac in keeping the lungs distended becomes clear if air at atmospheric pressure is allowed to enter intrapleural space, for example, as a result of stab wound. If this happens, the highly elastic lungs immediately collapses and is useless for gas exchange. It should not be clear that under the normal circumstances, changes in the volume of the thoracic cavity are transmitted to the lungs by means of two pleural sacs. Ventilation of the alveoli in humans thus depends on the methods of increasing and decreasing in the volume of the chest cavity. There are two such methods as follows. Number one, contraction of diaphragm. The diaphragm is a dome-shaped sheet of the muscles and connective tissue separating the thoracic abdominal cavities. When the muscle fibers contract, the diaphragm becomes flatter and pushes down against the contents of the abdomen. This increases the volume of the thoracic cavity and causes the lungs to fill with air. When the muscle fiber relaxes, the diaphragm is forced to return to its dome shape, partly because of the upward pressure of the abdominal organ and partly by the elastic forces associated with the lungs. Thus, expiration is a passive process, at least during the quiet breathing, when the diaphragm is often only muscle involved. The number two is contraction of intercostal muscle. There are two sets of intercostal muscles located between the ribs. They are used mainly during the deep breathing. When the external intercostal muscles contract, the entire rib cage is lifted upwards and outwards, increasing the volume of the thoracic cavity, so that these muscles are responsible for inspiration. Expiration is partly the result of the passive forces but can be assisted by the contraction of internal intercostal muscles, which acts to lower the ribs. The change in lung volume resulting from these ventilation movements are investigated using the spirometer. This consists of an oxygen-filled chamber floating over a water bath. The lid of the chamber is hinged at one so that the person using apparatus breathes in and out. The movements of the lid correspond exactly to the change in the air held in his lungs. Carbon dioxide released is moved by expired air through the soda line before it is returned to the main chamber. The recordings obtained show that with each normal breath, approximately 500